right out. Boy, that's an easy job. Oh God, that's ridiculous. How do you know if your shocks are bad? If you can agree, if you can compress them by hand, yeah, they're bad.
Do they even come back? Yeah, they're supposed to come back, John. Yeah, those are completely done.
All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So here we are with my 2010 Ford Focus. I am replacing the rear shocks. If you're curious, this video should be exactly the same on anything, I believe it's 2006 to 2011. And I actually think the earlier versions down to about 2002 are almost identical as well. So this is my black Ford Focus, not to be confused with the white Ford Focus that I used to have. And we are going to be replacing the shocks in the rear. As I said, we're going to do the front strut kits, I guess you might call them. It's a shock and spring combined. When those come in the mail, we will get those replaced as well. So the first thing we're going to start with here is, you can see we've already got the tire off. We're going to start by emptying all of the junk out of the trunk. So as you can see, we've got a few items in the trunk here. I believe this is a shampooer. This was actually in the car when I got it. So I've never even tried to see if it works. Now this stuff is obviously oil. There's transmission fluid, there's brake fluid, there's power steering fluid. You know, an older car like this, you never know, we're going to need a little bit of that kind of stuff to top off the fluids. So it's always good to keep a little bit on hand. Got a little extra gasoline there and a little more extra gasoline. I actually did have some problems with this car when I first bought it. It had sat for probably 3 to 4 years. It had been 4 years since it had a valid inspection sticker on it, and actually it still doesn't have a valid inspection sticker on it. Even though I've driven it about 8,000 miles. So anyway, when I first got it and started driving it, I was, anybody know what that was? It's called a drizzle stick. It's used when you're playing golf in the rain to cover your golf clubs. Of course, you got to have a piece of wood in the trunk. You never know when you're going to need a piece of wood. And of course, 3 or 4 tire irons, a big old wrench, another tire iron. Let's see what else we pull out of this magical trunk of holding here. Oh, a funnel. Definitely got to have a funnel for all those fluids. And an extra oil filter. Didn't even know that was in there. I wouldn't have bought one the last time I changed the oil. Oh, and another tire iron. So anyway, when I first started driving this thing, I had a little problem, a little fuel problem, where the gauge read quarter tank, yet I ran out of gas. So what obviously happened was the fuel float in the tank got stuck at a quarter tank when I was actually out of gas. So I was carrying extra gas around with me for a while in case that happened again, but it never happened again. Basically filling it up and emptying it, filling it up and emptying it, loosened the float, so it now goes up and down just fine. But that happens periodically when cars sit for a long time.
Okay.
The float will get stuck in one position, and until you've gone up and down on that position,
tighten down the fucking plug.
it will read wrong on the gauge on the dashboard. So as you can see here, there's only one nut on the top of the shock right there. One nut. One nut. Why does that sound familiar? Oh, I used to work with a guy in Arizona at a golf course. We used to call him One Nut because he only had one nut. Anyway, he was obsessed with the Cocopelli. I don't know if you know what a Cocopelli is, but it's an ancient, I don't know if it's ancient, but it's an old Indian symbol, and it's supposed to promote fertility. He had Cocopellis all over his house, and he even went so far as to get a tattoo of a Cocopelli on his arm, hoping that he could still propagate the species with his one nut. Anyway, back to the video. There it is again, guys. One nut, one washer. That's all that's on top of the shock right there. And if I had already had the bottom loosened, it would just fall straight out of the car. Now let's show you the bottom of it. So I apologize a little bit here. Can't really see what I'm doing, but once again, there's only one bolt on the bottom of the shock. There's one nut, it's attached to the frame down there. And there's one bolt you have to remove on the bottom. The socket size, I believe, was one size larger than the socket I used to remove the top bolt. And once you get that bolt out, the shock will just drop right out. Falls right out.
Boy, that's an easy job. Oh God, that's ridiculous. How do you know if your shocks are bad? If you can compress them by hand, yeah, they're bad.
Do they even come back? Yeah, they're supposed to come back, John. Yeah, those are completely done.
Yes, they're absolutely gone.
And are those original?
I guarantee you those are original. And it's got this wire on
here.
here.
Rust from the outside.
Which holds the shock compressed. Whatever you do, do not cut that wire until you get it installed back into the car. And probably you want to wait till you put the car back down on the ground too. Would probably be a good idea too.
Yeah, you want it all hooked up before you let that off.
Yes, at the very least. Back up through the hole. If I can find the hole.
So on this side of the car, I jacked up the axle a little bit, put the shock into the upper hole.
Well, we can go ahead and put the top on too to hold it.
And then try to jack up the
yeah, you can put the top and the
axle
nut on, yes.
So it would meet the shock, and then put the bolt in the lower part of the shock. The other side, I went ahead and put the bolt in the lower part of the shock, connected it, and then jacked up the axle there so that the top part of the shock would go into the upper hole. That seemed to be a little bit easier way to do it. So that's definitely how I would do it again in the future.
And then there's a bolt in the bottom, right? Yep. And this is what every car used to be. And it's the easiest job in the world, and it's the cheapest. Dude, when I got my first car, shocks for cars were $12.
Right.
Brand new shocks, both sides for $24.95 or some shit.
There's 2 more pumps. It's getting close. Maybe you gotta put the bottom one in first.
With those, there's no right and left side, right?
No. Didn't say there was.
No, there's not. There's nothing on them. There can't be.
I think you gotta put the bottom in first. It's starting.
Yeah, it won't compress enough.
Yeah.
Yep, you're probably right.
Starting to lift the car.
Yep. Here. All right.
Maybe once you get the bottom in and you have it in the hole, then you cut the cable.
Yeah, and then it'll go up to the hole.
Yeah.
You got to guide it while it's going up. So just get the bottom threaded, you know, to where it's in there. You don't have to tighten it. You just have to make sure
No,
it's...
but yeah, you need to have it in there.
You want to make sure it's in the threads. Because like you said, once you fucking cut that thing...
Yeah.
It's like a zip tie, basically.
Yeah, I don't know if it's plastic or cable.
Where does it come out? Is this it right here?
Where's the light?
No, it's right there.
That would have been gold too.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, it's sticking right there. It's on that nut.
Yep.
Yeah, you're fine. You can snip.
Yeah, it's been through.
You can snip it and make sure you got. It's already in the hole, right?
I don't know. You can tell from the top. Let's take a look.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
It is.
here. I want to get it on camera.
So as you can see here, we've got the shock sticking through the upper part. We've got it attached with the one bolt below. Now we can go ahead and cut that cable and it'll extend out, and we can go ahead and put the nut on the top. So as you can see here, we're about to cut the cable. There we cut the cable. You can see the shock extend just a little bit. So now it'll be sticking up through the top hole enough to be able to put the rubber grommet, the washer, and the nut on the top portion. So you want to screw down this nut so that it compresses the rubber grommet, so it basically expands to fill the washer to be about the same, maybe just a little bit less as wide as the washer.
Release the jack. Let that bolt down below.
At this point, I'm just checking that lower bolt, making sure
That's
it's
it.
tight.
Pretty much make it about as tight as you can without going crazy on it. And that's it. It's done.
Always retighten your bolts in a crisscross pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go back again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and make sure they're just a little bit tighter. You don't need to go crazy on these things. Just make sure they're nice and tight.
Side's done.
So as you can see on the other side, we're just going to do the same thing we did on the first side. We're going to give you a sped up version here. I did do like I said, and I did it a little bit differently on this side. When I put the new shock on, I put the lower bolt in first, then jacked up the axle, put the upper nut on, then took the jack out, finished tightening up both the lower bolt and the upper nut, and then we were done. As you can see, there's the jack. We're jacking up the axle, putting the upper nut on, along with the washer, the rubber grommet, and then the washer on top of that, and then the nut on top of that. We're tightening that up a bit here. So here we're taking the jack off. I normally do that on the couch, but today I got to do it in public. And we're almost ready to put the new tire back on. We're just going to make sure everything's tight. Here we go with the tire, the wheel, the lug nuts. All right, so that's about it.
That's it. I don't even think that took an hour.
Didn't even take an hour. Cost me $76 in parts.
I don't even think that took an hour. If a 58-year-old man can do it, you kids can do it too.
You pay the shop to do it, they charge you an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours labor,
Right.
$300 or
You'd
something.
say, yeah, you'd pay like $300 for the
They
whole
do
job
it in 15 minutes.
in the shop. Yeah, but they do it in 15 minutes. But they'd wait a couple hours to call you. All right, now we're going to put the junk back in the trunk. No comments about that.
All right, guys, thanks for watching my video. Hope you drop a like, subscribe to the channel, maybe even leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this old man and my videos, and we'll see you in the next one.
It's higher than it was before.